I think, like I said, there's very little intellectual planning going on in terms of what should guide Nigerian politics. I mean, we're not like other nations that worked extremely hard to achieve democracy. And I think this is also partly the problem that the PDP had, that because it inherited, the mantle, and didn't have to work very hard to create a party. It led to some of the issues that we now face today. The APC is not too different. But we still do not have political parties that are guided by very clear thinking about how do we manage a divergent society like Nigeria. I mean, the Arab Spring didn't happen by accident. Apartheid did not end by accident. Everywhere in the world, the Singapore didn't happen by accident. What I find troubling is that there's very little thinking about how to manage the complexity of this country. When you take a state like Adamawa, for example, that has over 80 ethnic groups, and you take a state like Kaduna with about 40-something ethnic groups, and a state like Plateau with about 60 or 70 ethnic groups, how do you manage these conflicting identities? Because our politics will remain violent, and a lot of people are going to come into politics purely and simply from the point of view of just commercial transaction. I mean, when you have 20 people wanting to be governor, when they know they don't have a chance, many of them know they're not going to go home empty-handed. So the real challenge for me in Nigerian politics is, apart from just dealing with the issues of INEC, you raise the question is that might it be possible that decent people might begin to go into politics? The reality of the situation is that the political systems in Nigeria are bereft of ideas, which also explains why in a place like Ibadan, for example, with a premier university, that you will have somebody like Adedibo, holding sway, across an entire, society with such extraordinarily brilliant institutions and brilliant individuals. So this, for me, the recession of intellectualism in our politics is one of the greatest dangers. And unless we begin to think a little bit more creatively about what politics is meant to do, namely to serve and create, the common good, we will, first of all, Nigerian politics is going to remain dangerous, it's going to remain violent, it's going to be filled with people who really are not there for anything other than just to better their, the conditions of their own lives. So for me, these are really some of the challenges. But I think happily, we are grateful that Nigerians have signed on to democracy, and that we hopefully believe that this process will be irreversible. But I think I would like to see much more critical thinking going on by non-political actors, i.e. think tanks, universities, and so on and so forth.
All right, let me bring it back here. I mean, Prof, this is where perhaps you come in here, about the ivory towers also making their mark on our politics in this country. Are they doing enough, or they just feel, let's let them do what they have to do? When they need us, they can reach out to us?
Well, Doctor, I would rather call him Dr. Mathew Kukah, instead of Bishop, was dead on target. It's a paradox, really, that a place like Oyo State, hosting our own Harvard, was held ransom by the likes of Lamidi Adedibu. But I need not even go that far. I come from Ekiti, which is supposed to have more professors in Nigeria than any other state. There are 2 in my family, for instance. Yet you have Ekiti people chafing under the thraldom of somebody who lays questionable claim to intellect. And even the concept of stomach infrastructure, which I believe it was one of your correspondents, Jibo, who actually coined. Although he told me he didn't, he lifted it from the streets. But it was Jibre who first gave us that idea of stomach infrastructure. When you compare a Kayode Fayemi with a PhD from King's College, London, with the incumbent today, you can't even compare apples and oranges. But lo and behold, his late claim, so it tells you...
in all the local governments he won, actually.
No, he's supposed to have won. I've called it a mystery. And I asked
but
him.
the people of Ekiti State have
They
actually decided.
Well, I asked him one-on-one, June in Abuja, how did he wangle that victory from my state? He said, Prof, it's the hand of God. That was before Ekiti Gate. We now know that God works through wondrous ways. So I think the jury is still out on whether university people or academia can really have a role in the Nigeria of today. Way back in 1976, by the way, now I'm talking of poet, a laureate, Abiola Erele. He posed a question: who cares for intelligence in Nigeria? That was way back in 1976. And you look around you, we live in an anti-intellectual environment where people snide and make jokes and fun of the man of intellect, the man or woman of intellect. So I don't know. I don't know what has explained that. We have 134 universities in this country, and people are yearning for more education and what have you. But really, when it comes to selecting leaders, academics can't even afford to throw their hearts into the contest, and people are suspicious of whatever they have upstairs. So it's so frustrating that a country so blessed can be so genuine and almost irrelevant in the scheme of things. But I'm glad to note that General Buhari suggests that when he comes on board, education will be one of his areas of concern, and we are looking at who is going to be his Minister of Education in time, because that's the solution to the problems of underdevelopment of this country.
So
because
are you saying that you're not physically people, professors like you, for example, from the ivory towers, you will not, are you open to contest for political positions?
Look, I beg your pardon, I've been teaching for 42 years. And I always ask my students, how many of you are over 40? No hand is up. I'm on my way out. Politics? My children are interested, more interested than myself. I want to enjoy my retirement. And if China still wishes to call me on as a consultant,
oh no, you're always
no
welcome
problem.
to be part of this family.
But do you see that happening? Because, I mean, when Bishop Kukah talks about critical thinking, you know, that it needs to run through, not just from government, because, yes, we have the private sector. How do we see that just be the key thing everywhere, even on the streets?
You know, it has not always been so. Too often we forget that we are not always like this. I'll give you examples. There was a time the outgoing president said that state police were not right for it. And I said, how familiar was he with Nigerian history? Because we had native authority police in this country, in the First Republic.
Before we had a unitary system.
Before that unitary system, indeed, we really had a federal structure. It was the military that came and started unifying everything. Western Nigerian Television Authority became NTA. Centralization became the ethos of governance during the military era. And so when they were leaving, they just gave to us all the distortions, including the states they created. I have said it here before, between Abacha and Babangida, they created 17 of these states. Now, nobody is going to accept now that many of these states are not viable. And that this atomization of states was not how we started. Now, in the First Republic, people that came to power, and I'm about to say this, across the entire country, thinkers, go and read what they were saying. Ever before the attainment of independence, they were setting forth their thinking. And when somebody was writing Path to Nigerian Freedom in 1947, what do you think he was thinking? He was setting an agenda. That freedom had not come, but he said, this is how we are going to attain it. They were writing, and they were always consulting intellectuals. Awo and Ezekiel Oluwasomi, Aluko, and people like that in universities. Friends, always calling them. What is the position? And they will debate and debate. Go and read those stories. Azikwe. So we've not always been like this. Now we now become a country that despises knowledge. Even on the streets, what do we hear? Have you made your money? Have you hit it? That's what we hear. Not, are you qualified? No, nobody wants to think about your qualification. So moving forward, I think that we have to go back to the way and then improve on it. And when Prof talked about education, it's very important. If you set up an economic team and you bring beneficiaries of import duty waivers to come and stay there, not good people, not people like Pastor, not people like, I'm saying this, and Henry Boyo, not people like that, and you just feel that the economy behind it, that's what you're going to get. So, moving forward, when this government comes to power, very early, it will be easy to see whether we are going to move in the right direction or we continue to head in the wrong direction, where we'll be going for the past, how many years now?